Roll driver program of you cutting your head to spite your face.
Oh, I should open the lobby.
Oh yeah, we're not even. Oh, we're so unprepared. I love it. I shall collect my things. Whilst we're just setting bits and bobs up, hello everybody, and welcome to Failcast F1 podcast. The fail for this episode is that we didn't even wait until we was in the lobby before we went live. This is our catch-up episode because we've been a couple of weeks out of the loop, mainly because real life had to take precedence for a few bits and bobs, which is always frustrating and annoying, and we don't like that. My name is Mr. Bolkenberg, and alongside me, as always, is the mercurial, suspectful, and alpha, definitely Zero. How are you doing, good man?
Pip pip, tally ho old bean. I'm very, very pleased to be back. I do enjoy a midweek episode.
Yes.
You've been a busy boy, and I was dead for a bit, but not too long. I'm back now, so it's fine.
Jesus would be proud.
Back on the Red Bull Cola as today's beverage of choice.
Ooh.
I know, cheeky little number, which is good. We've got a lot of Red Bull to talk about.
Oh.
However, I have an announcement to make. Well, two, actually. First of all, apologies to anyone who subscribes to my YouTube channel and is wondering what the hell happened. I was dead. Nothing I could do. Very inconvenient for everyone involved, but I'm back now. I will be making videos again at some point very, very soon. But this weekend I'm out of town, and the weekend after I'm in Iceland, so you and I have to reschedule the next episode again.
No problemo.
But I don't care because I'm in Iceland.
I was going to say, that seems to be your home from home these days. You get to enjoy quite a few.
It's Norway I'm normally in. This is only my second time in Iceland. But it's so beautiful. I got adopted by a taxi driver the first time. He offered to get me a job in an aluminium can factory.
Amazing. Was it a Red Bull can factory?
No, it was for canning herring, I think. So, not the most alluring aroma, but work is work, and a man's got to eat.
That's true, and I suppose you could eat on the job. I won't bother canning that lot.
Could have done. Shall we dive straight into Spain? We've got a lot to talk about.
Indeed. I'm super looking forward to this episode.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. I have missed you, sir, and our F1 banter. I also, at some point, have questions that came in for us to discuss, but news comes first, and before that, anecdote. So, guess what? It's been the Festival of Lights here in Berlin. So I've been taking pictures of all the pretty buildings lit up. All very nice and snazzy, you might be thinking. However, when I tried to get other pictures, so maybe some pictures of myself, that I could egotistically put up on Instagram to show I was actually there, I discovered the fatal flaw in my rather expensive phone case, which is that part of the case hangs over the flash, and so I end up with a very high resolution photograph set to focus about 2 millimeters in front of the lens at the back of my own phone case. It goes to show throwing money at a problem doesn't always fix it, McLaren.
Just a quick shout out as well. Hello to Chimpy in the chat and to Manor House as well. Lovely to have you both with us. Do feel free to submit in your general banter as we go through our banter bus day as well. Rain goes to dry for the race.
Oh, bollocks. I haven't driven this game since our last episode. I've been that dead.
Same. And my other problem is... what was I going to say? I've been busy playing, and this was the problem last time, Crash Team Racing.
Oh, God. If it's not that, it's the... What's the fruit one that you were playing?
Oh, All Fruits Racing. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. I played as the bitch called Cherry. It was fine.
Oh, well, in that case, I'll have to let you off, obviously.
Boo. That game is better than it has any right to be. Although, may I just add, I know Manor joined in for the stream, I think, as well. Wreckfest came out recently, and I've been loving that game on PS4. So I don't know if you ever liked the Destruction Derby games and all of that kind of stuff. If you like smashing stuff up on purpose, go play. Love it.
I do. That's basically been a large part of my life to date. But I'm going to shock you now. I actually backed that game as like right when it was announced and totally forgot about it. So I have a copy on PC. I thought they would never ever finish it.
Yeah, because remember it was just called Next Car Game, and then there was like Next Car Game Christmas Edition. They like added a Santa sleigh in or something weird. It was bizarre. Okay, how does this
I
game
caused
play?
our first yellow flag of the episode.
Ah, so proud. So proud.
It was that corner catches me out every time.
Boo. I tell you what, actually, with the recent news that's come on, I think it's quite fitting that we chose Toro Rosso this year, since it's going to be the last year that the name Toro Rosso will be on the Gridaroo.
And we did that with Force India as well. We're so up to date and considerate.
I think that means that we'll have to choose Alfa Romeo next year, judging by their sales. Let's polish them off.
You never know. Maybe we want to be Alpha Tauri. You never know. You know, it could be exciting. I'm keen to see if they change the livery. I'll be very disappointed if it's exactly the same car, just with a different name.
Unless they like paint a hoodie on it.
Yeah, I've got a feeling though it's going to be like. I can't get away from the idea of it being in some way silver or brown or taupe or like a camping tent green, because that seems to be the only colours they know.
Oh no! Has there ever been a brown F1 car? Hashtag not racist.
There was a Warsteiner Arrows car that was supposed to be gold but looked kind of a diarrhea-y brown.
Oh yeah, curry sauce. Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Curry sauce. Now, for those who don't know, AlphaTauri is the clothing brand of Red Bull, which has been out for 3 years. I've actually been a long-term customer of theirs, but apparently no one's ever heard of them, and so they decided to name their F1 team after it in a bid to sort of boost whatever the clothing equivalent ratings is. What did I do there? Oh, that was stupid.
Not crash, I hope.
No, I didn't crash, not yet. I saved that for about 3 laps into the race, so anyone tuning into my stream gets to just watch the AI drive around. Now, actually, in the first year, their clothes were quite nice. I liked them. Although they did say, it's designed to fit mind and body, and it's good for sport and everything. So I thought, okay, that's good. It's clothes for exercise. I wore the white T-shirt I bought from there to the office like 3 times, and it went like tramp sweat yellow really quickly. And I was thinking, okay, well, the office doesn't have air conditioning, but surely that's pretty unforgivable given how much it cost.
Yeah.
Kimi Raikkonen's on pole. What the frig is going on?
Oh, we've still got Dodge AI. That is quite bad, actually. Although I guess it would fit in with all of your characters that you find on the tram.
Yes.
But
me and my tram buddies would be matching jumpsuits made out of very sweaty material. No. Here's the other thing, though. I have to say, ordering from them is actually an experience, because it comes like in a box with a handle, like a carry case almost.
Oh.
That's held closed by magnets. It's all embossed, and you get like the t-shirts wrapped in tissue paper. It's quite fancy. It is fancy. But I do wonder if maybe renaming the team after it is actually going to be helpful in any way. I mean, I don't know what it did for Benetton, but
see, if I only know of one Benetton store that's like in London, which I always kind of go, haha, F1 team when I go past, but it's never actually made me go inside. I don't know, brand awareness is a thing these days, but like that just sounds like it's ripe for F1 driver unboxing videos, and that's all that's going to be.
Yeah, a bit. It does a bit, doesn't it?
I'd be down with an Albon ASMR style, crinkling the paper.
I'm not feeling very confident here. I think I need to go again.
I've also gone for the hard tyres, but that was before I realised it was raining. Comments in the chat. Chimpy, maybe you could choose Mercedes next year. Winky. We wish we could dethrone them. That would be fun. And Manor, there's been plenty of poo cars, but not sure about brown ones.
Well, I mean, it's very easy to make a poo car, to be honest, but I think we often forget, because Williams have got a lot of shit this year.
Yeah.
But as a retro F1 aficionado, as many of us here are, when you go back to particularly the early 90s and you had cars that were like 15 seconds off pole,
yes,
Williams being, 2 to 3, it's really not that bad.
Absolutely. And actually, you raising that, so he's changed his name and he's now called like TV or Retro TV Master or something like that. But it used to be Variety Man 1998 on YouTube. He recently uploaded the 1995. The 1995 Canadian Grand Prix sessions and the 2001 European qualifying and practice sessions. And I'd forgot, even in 2001, the top 10 are separated by 2.8 seconds. And then you've got like a clutch of people towards the rear, like between there and 4 seconds. And then the Minardi's at 4.5 and 5 off. And I was like, Christ, I forgot the field spread was that large, even 15 years ago compared to where we are now. And I think we kind of get a bit complacent of like, oh, the grid's so spread out. Actually, you could fit God knows how much in there, and they would be in the top 4 rows of the grid 15 years ago.
I would submit that if you got rid of the top 3 teams, this would have been the best season in F1 history.
We need to go through, and I'm sure someone's done it, what would happen if the top 3 teams didn't exist, and like how would the championship be? We know Sainz would probably be leading that championship.
I was going to say Carlos Sainz will be world champion, which I love the idea of.
Yes.
But I don't know if McLaren would win the constructors, because Lando's, I think he's had a good first season, but he's not by any stretch been a regular point scorer.
So many mechanical issues and bad luck.
Hello, Beetlejuice. Very happy to see you, mate. Hope you are well.
Hey, Beetle.
We were just trying to figure out who would be leading the championship this year if the top 3 teams were banished into some kind of nether realm.
That sounds like something Beetlejuice would know off the top of his head.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking him.
Font of knowledge. Let's watch you go again on your Rosso of Toro.
Now, speaking of them, I mean, I don't know what you think of the name change.
Just on that previous point, Chimpy just popped in the chat. There's a F1 1.5 Reddit. Current standings are Sainz leading and could clinch it in Mexico. I need to follow this Reddit now. I have heard of it, to be honest, but I've forgotten all about it existing. Thank you for that.
Does it say Chimpy who win the constructors? It could actually be McLaren. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, because I'd almost think maybe a Renault because they're a bit more double pointy. Yeah, when they're not blowing up. Oh yeah, McLaren. Yeah.
Oh wowzers!
Thank you very much, Chimpy. That's very good to know. Have a banana. Your car.
Rich in potassium, very important.
Sounds like my love life. Your car has the same issue as me, where it's very oversteery on the curbs.
Yeah. But I am improving. Not enough, but I'm improving.
44 thousandths.
Yeah, but when you just sort of know you've left something on the table, it's kind of like that. I feel like I've walked out of Wetherspoons and left my wallet behind. Speaking of Toro Rosso, Christian Horner has said that Naoki Yamamoto, has no chance of gaining any Red Bull backseat as I spin for no reason. I was surprised to hear him make that statement, although, given Red Bull's recent history of saying one thing and doing the exact opposite, I'm going to go ahead and say Yamamoto to Red Bull 2020.
Yeah, I found that really bizarre. I thought he acquitted himself really well in Japan, particularly as it was a awkward session, lots of condensed running, pretty much on the pace. Now I know Gasly was running, not Gasly, Kvyat was running a tyre step heavier, harder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was only a couple of attempts between them. That's the best kind of like Friday running experience that I've seen for a driver in a very long time, because you expect them to just come in and like use 1 or 2 sessions to get themselves acquitted and up to speed, but he was straight on there. I know he knows the circuit, but I was super impressed.
I was going to say that's part of the factor, apparently, that he's never driven outside of Japan.
Yeah.
And he's 31, which is apparently ancient, although Kimi Raikkonen's 40 and still the top 10 can't seem to totally shake him off.
No, and I find that really short-sighted as well, particularly for a brand-focused company. Can you imagine the amount of money that Yamamoto would reap across Asia for Red Bull if they were to pick him up? Because I can't see, like, France going nuts, or, like, I know Daniel Kvyat, he seems like a very lovely guy, but I can't see, like, all the Russians being like, must buy the Red Bull for the Russian torpedo. But I can see Japan going nuts.
I have to say, I don't imagine many teenage girls in Russia have a pin-up of Danny Kvyat.
I just love it when he reads that book.
Yeah, he looks a bit like a potato, and I don't think that sells.
Oh.
I love the guy, but he does look a bit like a potato, and that doesn't shift cans. Sorry, Daniel. Yeah, Beetlejuice. Red Bull not going all in on that Honda relationship. I agree. I think that's because there's still some concern about what Honda will do in the future. Although I think there's a better chance than there has been that they'll stick around. But we're coming back to Honda themselves later on, because it ties into another story.
Okay.
Talking of the Toro Rosso, though, while we try and stay on subject for once.
Lol.
I would actually, if it was down to me, I would definitely be giving Yamamoto a try. I mean, the thing is that let's be charitable here. Gasly's doing a fantastic job in Toro Rosso, but given what happened to him at Red Bull, I'm not sure he can ever really recover himself. And both he and Kvyat are sort of in a no man's land. They're in like a parallel dimension where they're both in and out of F1. They're like half fired.
Yeah.
And Horner said, as his reason why Yamamoto won't get the drive, is Toro Rosso's job is to provide options to the main team. Well, you've already clearly demonstrated that you don't think Kvyat or Gasly are really fit for the main team now, given how well Albon's acquitted himself. So what possible loss is there to giving up just one of those seats at the junior team to a Japanese driver with a Japanese engine and make the most of it?
Exactly.
It boosts the chances of your engine supplier sticking around, I would say.
Agree.
And if I had to get rid of one of them, I'd still get rid of Gasly. And I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm querying myself as I say it. I'm going to put something on screen that isn't just the pits. I don't quite know why I'm saying it, because Gasly's younger and everyone kind of deserves a second chance, but I don't know. I just seem to have more sympathy for Kvyat, and I rate Kvyat higher. Gasly's never dinged my bell. Even when he got that 4th place, there was something about him that I was like, I'm not totally convinced you're going to shine here, mate.
He seems so dependent on situations and surroundings that I don't, and I find it so curious that he's like doing so well in that Toro Rosso, even against Kvyat as well, that he's out qualifying, outscoring but I don't really understand why, because now as Albon gets closer and closer to Verstappen, I think it would have been easier to to kind of go, oh, it's the car, if Albon hadn't been able to be just as fast in a Toro Rosso as he has in the Red Bull, showing that actually that car can be adapted outside of Verstappen's range. And it's almost as if, and it might be something you said in a previous episode, it felt like he didn't try to adapt himself to that car and wanted them to adapt to him, but it's never going to be his team because it's Max's team. So you need to be able to do the best with what you can. I wonder if he's trying to then make Toro Rosso his team because it suits his driving style so well. Because it's interesting that as soon as he's come back, Kvyat is not going quite as well and he's shining versus how Albon and Kvyat have gone. So it makes it really difficult to then evaluate the three altogether because like when you put them up against each other, they all kind of even each other out and you kind of go, meh. Out of the three, I too would bin Gasly, mainly because he's the one that I have the least connection or botherance with. There's something sneaky about him. I don't know. He's a rat.
He looks like a rat. I was anticipating you saying that.
I'm sure he's lovely, but there's just something about him. Yeah, don't trust him with your life savings and pensions.
His eyes are too close together. He's a bogus gas man.
Which is why I'd think, particularly when they're gearing towards a 20...
Oh, piss off. I activated my Google for some reason.
Our grid girl coming in with the latest.
It was Googling bogus gas man. Oh,
superb. So for me, especially if they're gearing towards 2021, bin the one that they clearly wanted out straight away, move on, get Yamamoto in, even if that then evaluates him for a 2021 seat, there's still a good 6-7 years for him in there. Meh. And they've got, and as I don't know if we're going to go on to it, but they've just binned Pato O'Ward, who was there.
Potato Award, as they called him, which that pissed me off, to be honest. It really did.
And he had no chance in that at all. He came in to replace that twat features. What's his name? The really, that's it, Twattum. He was vile as a human being. But of course, because he was all stuck up and getting some results, Red Bull loved him because he could then be a chip on everyone's shoulder. He then failed in about 2 or 3 rounds in Super Formula. He didn't get a fair chance, to be honest. Although I went a bit Twitter on him when he got fired and was like, as most people on Twitter do. Pato O'Ward then gets 2 races and is immediately dropped. But in between there, he had a GP2 race, but was dropped in with 0 testing and no time to know what was going on. No surprise he was towards the back of the field. And then he's having to switch between that and Super Formula. I would be arse about face, not quite knowing how to get a car out. And then he's straight chucked back out again. And they've pulled up Yuri Vips, who's been busy doing stuff in F3, now to go to Super Formula. And I think he's also been given will be given a GP2 go as well. And you kind of go, no wonder they don't know whether they're coming or going. Awful.
That's not a way to run a driver development program.
No.
I think, to be honest, the sooner fucking Marco Helmet Marco retires, the better. He's too ruthless. Like, you have to be ruthless, but
yeah, he's
they've
too
only
damaging.
got more ruthless as the years have gone on. I mean, it was bad enough with Alguersuari and was it Buemi?
Yeah, when they couldn't decide which one was better, so they went, fuck it, we'll drop both.
Yeah, but fuck it, we'll fire them both. And then they brought in Vernon Ricciardo, and there was barely a cigarette paper between them, really.
Yeah.
And then they went, fuck it, Ricciardo, and then kicked Vern out, and he's gone on to be a 2-time Formula E world champion. Yeah,
and Buemi's done it as well, so I think. Yeah, he has.
Yeah, he has.
So you kind of go, I wonder if Buemi and Vern... Because Vern's not on the books anymore, but Buemi still is for Red Bull, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, he's their official reserve driver.
And you kind of go, I wonder if they think that actually that was the most backward forward step possible. Because look at how their careers have flourished, so to speak, over in Formula E as it continues to gain itself precedence and all kinds of stuff.
Vern, I think, has gone from strength to strength as a driver. I think if he came back to F1, he'd be even better. But he's done with F1. He's nailed his flag to the mast now. He's been mouthing off actually this week about F1.
Ooh, cheers.
And trying to encourage Lewis Hamilton to move over. And I was thinking, if you were in a series I wasn't watching, I'd be right behind that message. But you know he's going to turn up with his... I mean, he's got fucking dreadlocks now for some reason. He's going to turn up...
I've seen that Snapchat picture.
Yeah, he's going to turn up and ruin Formula E for me by being a twat for the next 15 years.
Oh, dear.
You know, it'll be him and the reanimated corpse of Rubens Barrichello, and that'll be half the grid, and it's just going to suck.
Brundle comes out of retirement, and actually he uses his new pacemaker to power the car around.
Yeah, I mean, I love Formula E. Please don't ruin it by bringing that smug, obnoxious git into it. He very well may be the greatest driver of his generation. He could even arguably be the greatest driver of all time at some point. But he's also a wanker, and I don't want him in Formula E.
Yeah.
He's unbearable.
Whilst we're in wanker territory, something that I don't often say outside of Grindr, lol, not anymore. Have you seen, or do you have an opinion on the stuff that's gone on in the British news about Lewis Hamilton and how the press have now started to say that they're worried for his mental health because he started posting that he was upset with this world and how he feels like when he's trying to do good in the world, everyone just wants to put him down, sob, because of his comments about being green and vegan. Taking it. Yeah, and how he should look after the world.
Interestingly, I'm already going off on a tangent because I want to give a shout out to Roman Grosjean for basically saying the vegan diet is bullshit. It doesn't give you enough calories to be a sportsman. I don't know what he's talking about.
And he should know because he does cooking.
He's a chef. He's dropped cakes in some of the finest kitchens in the world.
Crashing them into the floor.
So he knows what he's talking about. But no, I mean, all I would say is it's just the press trying to make a story where there isn't one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's depressed and dramatic literally every weekend. Only a journalist who was either desperate and lying and after a headline, or one who's never listened to any of his team radio broadcasts would jump to the conclusion that Instagram post meant he was seriously at risk of taking his own life.
Oh dear.
But I mean, I do wonder if there's like a Lewis Hamilton spectrum, because I get the feeling Daniel Ricciardo set a foot on one now that his career's gone a bit skew-whiff by making the wrong move, which I take some responsibility for. Sorry, Daniel, but I did think it was a good idea as well. I'm sorry it hasn't worked out. Because I don't know if you noticed, but Daniel Ricciardo on Paddock Pass at the last Grand Prix turned up wearing prick glasses. And the other week he was barking like a dog in a press conference and claiming that in a former life he was an FBI dog. And I noticed that Will Buxton said, I've not been able to put him in any of the Paddock Passes recently because he's just talking nonsense. And I'm wondering if he's like on the Lewis Hamilton spectrum now, where he's just starting to crack because things aren't going his way. Beetlejuice says the only way he'd allow Lewis Hamilton into Formula E is if Nico Rosberg was his teammate, and I fully approve that message.
Oh, yes. Andrew Brenson and the Sun aren't the press, says Chimpy. I generally agree with that. I don't mind Andrew Benson.
Most of the press isn't the press anymore.
No, that's true.
I don't want to get all tinfoil hat, but honestly, the last few months, I'm reading things and I'm like, what is going on? Do these people live on the same planet as the rest of us?
Exactly. No, that does make me sad. Yeah, because we get more right on this bloody podcast than they do in the bloody news.
It's scary how right we've been. There's a lot coming up later where I'll prepare everybody who's watching now. I'm going to be unbearably smug. Because we've been proper full-on correct I'm sorry, but we have.
Our racing may be terrible, but our opinions are correct.
Exactly. Thought police. So for me, I don't know. It's taking on Lewis Hamilton's kind of a poisoned chalice anyway, because, you know, as I said, he is a phenomenal driver, and he's certainly got the star profile that you'd think, okay, well, Formula E could arguably benefit from that, but he's just such a dick. I just can't get over it. He's just such a prick. I remember, right, me and my dad, I've had a somewhat distant and fraught relationship down the years. We're a lot closer now, but I remember one moment in my teenage years, my later teenage years, I admit. Actually, no, it could be my early 20s, but I remember one sort of genuine father and son bonding moment, and it was Lewis Hamilton having a suspension failure and crashing, and I can't remember which track it was at, but this is back when he had a shaved head and he was driving for McLaren.
Okay.
So it'd be like 08, 09. His suspension broke, and we both cheered at the same time on the sofa.
Aww.
And it's because at the start of that race, he'd been interviewed by Grundle, and
Grumble.
and he'd just been unbearable. He'd been like a total prick through the whole interview. Not in the way he is now. Like, now it's a much more pretentious kind of dickishness.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just sort of like a cocky kind of dickishness. But,
Hashtag blessed.
yeah, I don't know. I just always found it hard to relate to him. But, you know, it's also the kind of troubled behaviour that afflicts the auteur, right? You know, the genius. And he is a phenomenal driver. I can't overlook that. I'll never try and take that away.
No, completely agree.
And I think he's a fine ambassador for the country, but he just irritates me.
Yes, I agree.
I just realised it's going to rain in the start of the race, so it actually doesn't matter a smidge.
See, I've been so caught out with this that I've gone for the mediums anyway, just in case it's that stupid spitty rain and it's still dry tyres, and I'm like, no. I had an entire race in my latest Formula 2 drive was around Paul Ricard. The entire race was wet, but we was all on dry tyres the entire way. I was like, how did this even happen? A couple of comments that came in during that. Jimpy, I think if you had Leclerc, Verstappen and Hamilton together for a championship, we would possibly see Hammy crack. I would agree, because if there was a team... My annoyance with Hamilton is how quick it is to blame the team but then go, it's a team game afterwards, but it's always good to shift the blame when it's not his fault. Manor House, do you think Hulkenberg will be on the grid next year? I can't see where he would go now. I have to say, I
actually
agree.
don't, and it makes me sad. It makes me sad. I'm seeing a lot of Hulkenberg hate on social media. A lot of people think he's a prick.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but
to me, he gives off the impression that he's quite done with the sport as well. I think he feels, and justifiably so to some degree, jilted by the fact that was his team. He was building stuff up. He's gone through the shit times of it, and he won't be there to reap any rewards or good times if they come. And I think regardless of whatever he would have done this year, he was out anyway.
Oh yeah, I had the feeling from... Oh, you
no,
bastard.
That was terrible, Kubica.
I have the feeling from Cyril Abitbaboul. My car is undamaged, believe it or not.
Wow. Unlike Kubica's arm.
Like totally undamaged. I have the feeling from Cyril Abitbaboul at the start of the year that he was already gone.
Yeah.
He was already gone at the start of the year, and he was already saying, like, he needs to do more. I was thinking, what more can he do? Like, as I recall, last year, his problems were reliability, and he binned it in Azerbaijan.
Yep.
Now, admittedly, he's maybe made a few more errors this year, although none immediately leap to mind, but I know there have been some.
The German one.
Yeah. but I don't know. A lot of people on Twitter were saying, well, I think he's really arrogant for someone who's never accomplished anything. And I was thinking, well, I'd agree with you if it wasn't largely not his fault that he hasn't accomplished anything. Because he's respected up and down the grid, and, people who are fighting for world championships think he's one of the best guys out there. Why is my phone ringing?
I don't know, but that traffic is horrible.
Yeah. I'm going to go out in Q2.
I think you might have it.
No, I'm already half a second down thanks to the twatting.
Chimpy, a Renault third driver, I personally don't think he would take that because I think he would want to be racing. I don't think he would do a test roll. I can't see him doing... He's been in the game too long to do an Olivier Panis or Ricardo Zonta and dive back. That was terrible, Ferrari driver.
They never get out of my way.
Have you got enough fuel to back off on mix 1 and go again?
Yes.
You've got time. And Manners has popped in, and he got beat for Grosjean for the Haas drive, which is a strange decision, I feel. Now, I would agree on principle. However, a secret shenanigans. I know of someone who works at Haas, and whilst at ground level, they all rolled their eyes at that decision as well. It must be said. So clearly, he is the loved person out of that duo when it comes to drivers. But for me, this whole our car is stuck, we don't really know what we're doing type thing. He's been able to vindicate himself in terms of car direction and drivability and setup ability, and I think he's in his last chance saloon, absolutely, but they need to be able to show progress in the step forward of what they can make of the 2020 car to prove his worth as a development driver that can race as well. And when that all comes together, I think we'll see the better Grosjean again. But he can't have any more slip-ups. He'll be out the door otherwise, because it's purely from a technical perspective that he's got that drive, not from a I bring home the results perspective. So, yeah.
No, it is because he was sort of proven right about a lot of his whinges, right?
Yeah. And
you do need some consistency to fix problems like that.
Definitely. And I will probably bring it after your lap, but... we were spotted on Autosport that K-Mags has said that he can't actually diagnose any of the car's problems because it handles too well. So what to me that screams is I don't know how to develop a car. I can know how to drive the wheels off what I've got.
Fuck, I didn't make it through.
That's nuts. That pops you up to 7th. No, 11.
Oh, goddamn. It's alright, it was a diabolical lap, and I'd put like 3 laps on my tyres, so it's fine. I get free tyre choice, and I get to watch you. I actually think it was a good time, considering I put a shitload of laps on those tyres.
Yeah. You could see the grip was going in the final sector. Dang.
Onwards and upwards. Beetlejuice says Hulk and K-Mag at Haas would have been Netflix worthy. I think we'll get enough out of Gunter, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, though. I am still surprised about either side taking this, because let's be frank. New York. All the way through that series, he was just complaining about Grosjean.
Yep.
And he made some what I thought were quite personal comments at Grosjean's expense.
Yeah.
And yet, he's signed him again, and Grosjean's accepted. And I don't really know why. And the thing is, Grosjean can be really good on his day.
Oh, yeah.
Really good. I mean, I still look back at his years at Lotus.
Yeah, 2012 was great when he was busy battling for podiums and attempting a race win.
Sorry, my phone's buzzing me.
That's right. No, I completely agree. And there's been flashes of it as well here. So, like recently at Japan, he was doing some really, really good work there and keeping the Haas in the points, which it didn't look like it was capable of doing for the most part. So, there's flashes of genius in there. Interesting times, but he's a borrowed time man. I'd be very surprised if he's in that seat for 2021, and I think 2020 will be his bowing out season unless he is able to pull something stupendous out the bag.
Or a new team takes him on.
Ooh, segue.
If we get a new entrant, which is still far from certain. I won't actually come on to the prospect of new entrants though. We should stay on Grosjean since we're talking about him. I definitely agree with your prognosis. I think it really is his last year. I don't think there's really anything he can do to stop that. I'm not going to say I couldn't see him going somewhere else because he's got an irritating ability to sort of cling on and stick around. That said, he is on borrowed time, and he must know it, and it makes me question how engaged he's going to be. K-Mag, on the other hand, has sort of really made that team his own, and I think that's a blessing and a curse because I think he's kind of boxed himself in. I think he's on a Frentzen trajectory now.
Yeah, that is a good point actually, because one would argue that another thing on borrowed time is Haas F1. So where would you?
For sure.
So where would you put K-Mag if Haas went under, or just closed down entirely, or changed hands to an owner that does not like balls to the walls drivers?
In the bin.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I always felt like he didn't really get a fair crack at McLaren.
Agree.
The car was a dog, but didn't he get a podium on his debut?
Yeah. He got second.
And that was while the car was trying to set him on fire, as I recall.
Yeah.
And he is cocky, he's a bit arrogant, but I think he stands behind it in a way that other cocky, arrogant drivers don't, so it makes him less fundamentally unlikable.
Yeah, he's the lovable rogue.
Yeah, that's a really good way of describing him, actually. In the same way, Verstappen's a twat when he does it. With Kevin Magnussen, like, "Oh, you rapscallion." He's a lad. He's a bit a bit of a geezer,
I would expect him to grab him by the pussy.
Yes. He's definitely the one who would do that. So, for me, he could actually fit in as a sort of a strong lead driver at a team that's really challenging for the podium spots. Do you know what I mean? Like an outsider. Like, think how Red Bull are this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would fit very well into a team like that, one where the driver makes the difference, and the guy who's willing to be a bit of a dick and get his elbows out is the one, and still bring it home, crucially.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about K-Mags, he forces people off, he makes contact and so on, but he tends to bring the car home. He lives to fight another day, more often than not. And that's the sort of scrappy driver, I think, that would really help a team either on the verge of breaking into the podium positions or one that's tickling the end of the points.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose for the moment, Haas is actually quite a good fit. I just think, as I say, he's boxing himself in. He's writing the next chapters of his career in... because actually I was thinking about this the other day, like how F1 works kind of like a TV show, actually. And
you get your persona, don't you?
Yeah, there's a character development almost. And just as, someone like Jarno Trulli was always sort of worthy of a place on the grid, but you knew he was never going to end up in one of the big seats.
Mm-hmm.
K-Mag's writing himself in like that. The interesting exception is Valtteri Bottas, who can't seem to write himself out of a top team.
No.
It's not for the want of trying.
I'm waiting for F1 to announce its new global partner as one of those porridge oat companies.
Well, I mean, the thing is, he's I do rate him. I like Bottas. I really do. I really, really do. However, he seems one day happy to take that number 2 driver role, and then the next day he's pissed off about it. And I don't have the same sympathy for him that I do with someone like Charles Leclerc at the start of the season. Because when Leclerc went up to Ferrari, yes, there was the presumption he would be the number 2 driver. Ferrari kind of said, yes, at least early on we will be favouring Vettel. But I think that was something said on the assumption that Charles might not immediately challenge Vettel in the way that he did.
Yeah.
Whereas Mercedes say, we have equal drivers, but then they say also whoever makes it through the first corner first is the one who gets preference, unless it doesn't suit us. And Bottas is sort of all but officially the second driver in perpetuity. And yet, despite those two being in quite similar positions, I think because Bottas doesn't really take it to Hamilton very often, I don't seem to have the same sympathy for him. And I sort of think, well, you have to ask yourself, Valtteri, how important is it for you to have a works drive in Formula 1? If you're not happy to play second fiddle and you really think you've got more to offer and the team's holding you back, why sign on again? Because I don't think he's a driver that couldn't find another seat.
Oh no, not at all. Anyone that's just a couple of attempts off of Hamilton, is still top tier. Because of that benchmark. And
that deal where they re-signed him and he signed the contract. To me, that was an agreement that seemed odd from both sides. Because, from his "to whom it may concern, fuck you" comment to Bottas 2.0 and some of the
which didn't last that long.
More aggressive exchanges he's had on the radio, to then coming out all humble and almost browbeaten after signing the contract, and then immediately over the next few races becoming grumpy again about the status quo. And I was thinking, what did you expect? I don't get it. And maybe he was just scared that he would talk himself out of F1 altogether, and maybe he was right, but I just sort of don't understand why he's not happy, why he can't do an Eddie Irvine. Because the one thing I always loved about Eddie Irvine, aside from his cheeky Irish face and his drunken nightclubbing punch in the face attitude, what I loved about Eddie Irvine was he knew he was the number 2 driver at Ferrari and still gave it 110%.
Yeah.
And the quote I love most from him, because someone asked him, and it could have been, what was the woman who looks like she might molest you in an elevator?
Oh, Louise Goodman.
Yeah, that's the one. I'm glad you knew who I was talking about for that description. But yeah, it is
everyone's all bar one mummy.
Yeah, she's like the inappropriate auntie who's not really your aunt.
Yeah.
Oh, you're filling out nicely, aren't you?
I'll fill you out.
Yeah, you've grown big. We've all had one. Well, she asked him, sort of trying to needle him about being the number 2 driver at Ferrari, and he said, "I am the best driver in Formula 1 apart from Michael Schumacher." And I thought that was a fantastic answer. Because he said it with such conviction as well. He says, "I believe I'm the best driver, but I'm not as good as Michael." So, logically, where else would I be? Ferrari's the team to be at. And I'm the second best, but I'm still better than everyone else. And I thought, yeah, I get that. So, that's why he was always happy to play second fiddle. And it's also, I think, why Ferrari were happy to throw their resources behind him when Michael got injured.
Yeah.
Because, he'd always played the game. And Barrichello was good at that as well, really. Barrichello always played the game.
Yes, he did.
And so did Coulthard, actually.
Coulthard was probably the best example of a number 2 driver out there, and it's quite boink.
See, if that had been me, all my wheels would have flown off spontaneously. I don't know how you're driving away from that.
Minor damage, it says. That's a shame. I was slightly up, but cheeky. That will happen in the race. Coulthard's really I wouldn't have called myself a Coulthard fan during his time of racing, but as an actual person and a personality, he's really, really grown on me like a fungus since he's become a commentary person, because he's actually really deflowering. That's not what I mean. He probably is, but
I wouldn't say accuse David Coulthard of deflowering anything on the internet. You never know if his lawyers are listening. But yeah, go on.
Derogatory of his F1 time, because he was like, no, can he beat me up every single weekend, and occasionally I'd get the better of him, but it wouldn't happen often. Same with Hakkinen. Was trashed by Webber as well a bit. So he kind of perfect number 2 everywhere, but he would play the game, and he knew that hard work would get you to 98% of where you needed to go. And circling this back to Brotas, they didn't need to do Coulthard 2.0, Barrichello 2.0, Irvine 2.0. What would he have done? Snorted cocaine off the front grid light?
I'd love to see Bottas on coke before a Grand Prix on a grid walk. Just yes, Martin, yes.
Just having my morning oats.
It's only porridge, I swear. Do your teeth itch? No, he's
chomping at the
I
bit.
just don't get the feeling he's made peace with it. That's all.
Yeah, it feels uncomfortable. But he can change that by continually matching and beating Hamilton, which he isn't able to do at a regular basis. He can, like Rosberg in his early years, he could sustain it for a period of time and then filter out. And Hamilton's strength is to bring it race on race every weekend, like a machine. Terminator.
Unless he's feeling a bit sad. Like if someone's been mean to him.
That's true. It wants me to do a 3-stopper. Fuck off. That rain goes.
I'm going to have a huge accident because this is the first version of this game where I really suck in the rain. Especially on Inters. Especially.
How many laps?
It is autos. Why am I next to a Red Bull? Why is there a Red Bull in 10th? Is that
Gasly.
you, Satan?
Because they've still not done the Gasly album switcheroo.
Right, apparently I need 11,000 revs to get off the line in the same time as everyone else. But it's still, I'm slow off the line. I don't know what more I can do. My starts are so bad.
God knows how Raikkonen was fourth on the grid. SpongeBob.
Everyone's just driving into me. Please stop it.
Well, I
bullied.
bounced off Hamilton and Vettel and took the lead without damage, so God knows how that worked.
Why is Bottas down in 17th? Why am I last? What is going on? Oh!
Oh dear, I see a yellow flag. Is that you?
I went to look at the chat and rear-ended Bottas.
Oh no. That might get him to whom you may concern. Fuck you message.
Sorry, not Bottas, Hulkenberg. I think I've taken him out of the race. Oh no, I haven't. A vintage performance. Yes, I agree. It was indeed a cheeky vintage.
I'm very slow.
I'm so incompetent. Oh well, never mind. That's another race where I'm not going to score any points. You're going to deck me this year, Simon. You're going to absolutely deck the halls with my boughs of holly.
We're not done yet. I feel very vulnerable.
That said, for a guy who's missing half his car, I'm actually getting quite good pace. I've caught back up to everybody. And the car's almost handling better. The key to driving in the wet is to drive about 8 times slower than you think you need to. The auto pit just drove me into the pit wall.
No.
Yeah, it did.
God.
Oh well, never mind. Back onto the F1 news, eh? So
Cody's.
So, wanted to speak about another prediction that we made, aside from the one that Haas may leave the sport.
Oh yeah.
And Roman Grosjean may also leave the sport. So, Alfa Romeo, we've already talked about this several times. Their cars are not selling very well at all. To the point that Lancia, I actually work with a bunch of Italians who tell me the name isn't Lancia, it's Lancia.
Oh.
So there we go. So Lancia, because I said Lancia and he was like, what are you talking about?
I've never heard it say Lancia.
Lancia.
That's bizarre. It sounds like some kind of something you'd ask for treatment.
Yeah, there you go though.
Nasty case of.
We're being educational again. We're going to get in trouble. Yeah, so Lancia, who only sell cars in Italy now and only produce one car, which is nearly 10 years old and ugly as all sin, that sold 10,000 more cars than Alfa Romeo.
Christ.
And that's not against a single Alfa Romeo, that's against all Alfa Romeos combined. So Alfa has a bit of a problem. And now the rumour is that they want to pull out of the deal with Sauber. Now, I thought, oh, that sounds like bad news, but get this. So, you know, I'm in that German language group for sort of Saubery insiders, and I get the occasional bit of gossip. Well, apparently, there are voices inside Sauber as well who say this Alfa Romeo tie-up is bullshit, and they are a bit annoyed that they didn't go with Honda after all.
Wow.
Because they don't seem to enjoy not being Sauber, but also they feel that the Alfa Romeo tie-in restricts the team too much in terms of driver choice and some of the decisions they make regarding performance development of the car, how the team is structured, so on and so forth.
Interesting.
So the team may very well revert to being called Sauber for 2021, and they may very well be chasing a Honda deal after all. That is the rumour.
Wow.
Reason being, they presumably believe they can get some benefit from this by maybe being more willing to be an actual Honda team. Oh, nearly lost it there again. But also it offers them a bit more freedom than they currently enjoy. So watch this space, because if a year from now, 18 months from now, it's announced, you heard it from me first.
That is very interesting.
I can tell I haven't played this game for a month.
That's the first that I've heard of any of the we'd like to go back to Honda, so that really interests me, because you're right, it does Ferrari then have dibs on the second race seat. That they used to have that with when they were Petronas back in the late 90s, didn't they? For a wee while, but then they was able to pull themselves out of it, because Diniz wasn't necessarily a Ferrari driver. Well, I know we had our rumours, but he wasn't going to be a Ferrari driver. But I think of when it was Nicola Larini, Gianni Morbidelli, they were ex-Ferrari people. Alesi was there, kind of with Ferrari tyres still. I can see why it's giving their soul away. And Peter Sauber's still found on the grid. So he's, God knows how he's still alive.
He's really old. He is really old.
He looks like he's lost so much weight as well. So
never a good sign. TikTok, Peter.
Not the app. Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, I love Sauber so much that I was really sad when Alfa Romeo rebranded them. But it is just a naming agreement.
Yeah,
so
and it always felt hollow, didn't it?
Yeah. But, it did do a lot of good for the team, let's be honest. And it was nice to see Alfa Romeo back as a brand. But I'm kind of with the Sauber employees who felt the Honda deal was a missed opportunity. At the time, I really thought that it had been a stroke of genius from Fred Vasseur to drop Honda and sort that agreement out. However, with hindsight, and of course that's 2020, with Honda having made such significant improvements and the Sauber deal being not on such favourable terms as McLaren, but apparently on full classic works terms, which even Red Bull don't have now. I imagine that Sauber probably did lose quite a lot of money by not taking that deal and taking the Alfa Romeo one instead. But I guess they just thought, well, we'll make up the shortfall with performance gains from having a better engine. But maybe that's not coming to pass.
I wonder, because the money's got to be coming from somewhere.
Well, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari did put a lot of money into the team, but not as much as Honda was going to. But, Vasseur's argument was, well, if we have a Ferrari engine, we might be able to get, a modern Ferrari engine. We might be able to get back up into scoring points, which they did. They had a very strong start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get prize money. And the prize money would be worth more than the difference, potentially.
Right, okay.
But then Giovinazzi hasn't really delivered until the end of the season, and even then, I'm still not sure I'd keep him around, to be honest, although that's becoming an increasingly rare opinion. It seems a lot of people are quite happy to have him.
I'd like to give him a second year, but if there is no improvement, then I'd want to show him the door. I'd Gasly him.
Give him the Gasly. The old hot Gasly. I don't even know if I'm catching anybody here. My race is frigged.
I'm not going very fast, and I have about 12 drivers all behind me in a line, so...
I saw the Simon train on my mini-map, but you are like half a lap ahead of me. You're 42 seconds clear, you personally.
Okay.
So, with that all said, why don't we talk potential new teams for a moment? Because this has become an interesting topic. So, you were talking a while ago about Panthera, or Panthera Team Asia, as their full name is alleged to be.
Yes.
Now, they have been told to wait till 2021, or 2022, one or the other. I think it might even be 2022.
Oh, okay.
And the FIA apparently doesn't consider them credible. Hamilton's out. Because Ross Brawn has repeatedly said we have interest, a lot of interest, but we don't have anyone who we consider suitable to join the grid. And their benchmark is they need to be on the level of Haas in terms of preparation and funding. But Campos, who many will remember have actually entered the sport before in 2010, but ran out of money before the season began and sold out to a Spanish consortium and ended up entering as HRT.
No.
Well, apparently Campos are back, and they are claiming that they are ready to enter in 2021, and they've named one of their drivers.
Already?
Now, yeah. Pascal Wehrlein.
Ah, yes, I did read this.
Now, I care so little about Pascal Wehrlein and his stupid, obnoxious hair, but I'm curious as to whether this will happen, because the rumour is that they would be going to Renault for a Haas-like arrangement.
Oh.
because, the other manufacturers are kind of tied up, really, and Renault's probably the best place to go right now. And I could see that being very, very attractive for Renault, who could stick one of their up-and-coming junior types into a seat next to Pascal.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, Campos are saying that they will be ready for 2021. The FIA seemingly disagrees, but I wonder if Renault may flex a little muscle and make something happen. And I'm curious what your take on this is, and whether this time they'll enter successfully. And I only mean enter successfully, I don't mean will they survive. Because the answer to that is probably no.
So I worry with Campos because, like, they've been around as a junior Formula team for many a year. They know what they're doing. They're not really front runners in anything that they've ever gone for, though, which is interesting.
Do you know what they make me think of?
Who?
Pacific.
Yes.
Because at first I thought 40, but then I realised actually 40 was super successful before entering Formula One.
Yeah, and to be fair, Pacific had good times as well. But I'm in for dries, by the way.
Yeah, I'm coming in too. But I'm so far behind you. We will not pass like ships in the night.
Okay. I can't tell if I got a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pits or not. I don't know how George Russell was running 8th in that race.
I'm dropping frames, which is not very encouraging. I don't need that to diminish an already crappy performance. I hate this track so much.
Same.
And I hold the entire nation of Spain responsible. I will have my revenge. They remind me a bit of Pacific, because didn't Pacific move up before they'd won Formula 3000? Or am I thinking of another team?
No, they had won Formula 3000 before, but I don't think they were like top tier people in the year that they moved up, because they were supposed to.
What independent entry is it I'm thinking of that move up to Formula 1 before they'd won in the lower formula?
Simtech? Or was Simtech rated completely out of it? I can't remember.
No, Simtech weren't in the junior. They just went straight into F1.
Pacific were lower formulae. Delara? I don't know.
No, I don't know. Regardless, I am nervous about any new entrant at the moment.
Yeah.
As a general rule, I just don't think it's a good idea, and I don't see how even a competent GP2 team could enter and be competitive unless they follow to the letter the Haas model and basically buy someone else's bits entirely. But maybe that's what Campos do, who even knows. He seems determined to have a Spanish F1 team, though. Because that was his argument for entering again.
Which I don't understand what has changed in the years that have gone by that would make them more successful this time round. And I think that would be a question, if I was the FIA, that I'd want answering. Why has George Russell overtaken Max Verstappen? I'm very confused with the AI.
I mean, I have other questions as well, really, about this, because there are some names linked to these new entries that I find deeply concerning.
I've got my thinky face emoji on. Fire away. I'm intrigued.
So, Mark Preston.
Okay.
Someone McCool. And
sounds like a Saturday morning TV show.
And Peter Windsor.
Oh God.
Now, if you're wondering where those first two names came from, Those are people who have been involved with Super Aguri, the Aguri Formula E team, and I believe one of them was involved in another team that went arse over tit. What was it? I don't know. Oh, one of them was in some way involved with arrows. One of them helped run arrows into the ground.
Oh, great.
And bearing in mind that these are people who, when Super Aguri entered, and I guess it's whichever of them was working at Arrows, they decided the best thing to do when entering a new team in 2005, I think it was to take the Arrows A23 and just paint it a different colour.
Yeah, from 2002.
Yes. So I have no faith in the management of that team, because I think Adrian Campos, as much respect as I have for him as a junior Formula E gunslinger, he's tried to enter the sport before and made a bollocks of it. I don't know why he wouldn't do it again. And then he's basically hired the crew of the Titanic to to build the team.
USF1, the biggest muck-up of all time.
Even like some months before they were due to be on the grid, all they'd released was a picture of a nose cone that they'd apparently produced that looked nothing like the nose cone the Formula E demanded. Like, you looked at it and just thought, you've Googled nose cone, and that's the first thing that's come up, and then you've just made it a 3D rendering, and you've 3D printed it or something. I mean, but they had a signed driver and everything, and it makes me laugh, right? Because you always sort of think big business in particular is super well organised, and these investors and business leaders are professionals, they know what they're doing. I'm going to tell you a story from my own career now. The company I worked for before it was acquired by a much bigger company, we built a new office. And it took a long time to build because it was in a protected building, and bureaucracy in Germany is mental. But it was a very fancy and pretty building, and it was going to look amazing when it was done. So we agreed to host an event for the German Press Association. It was like a gala dinner, awards ceremony kind of thing. It was like a big event.
Right.
They have it annually. And we agreed to host it. And even 2 weeks before, even 4 days before, our PR team was still exchanging emails with them, and we were looking forward to this event and everything. And I know for a fact, because I went to the building, that at this time the building did not have a roof. It did not have a roof. So there was a metal frame designed to hold up the glass ceiling, but there was no glass in it, and it was completely covered in tarpaulin. And some of the windows in the side of the building, they were also covered in tarp because they hadn't been installed yet. And there was no power in part of the building. And we cancelled the day before. The day before. And I was thinking, these are people who I know for a fact have gone into meetings with people like the head of Daimler and left the room with money. And I've decided that the whole world is just bollocks. Just everyone's walking into a room lying to each other.
Yep.
And giving each other obscene amounts of money. I'm pretty confident now I could enter Formula 1 in 5 years. You just have to be really great at lying. You just have to completely deny reality. I mean, it worked for Trump, right? He's in the White House now. And, God only knows some of the theories he's had, but, we've all heard them. So I'm pretty sure, actually, that if we put our minds to it, we could get Failcast F1 onto the grid within a decade.
Yes.
I mean, look at some of the teams that have got into the sport. I mean, genuinely. I mean, HRT is the most recent example. Caterham, who at one stage, due to financial irregularities,
crowdfunded,
instated their janitor as the director of the company.
Oh, I
Do you remember
that.
that?
Yeah, I remember when they done the because they done like a press conference, and he seemed like proper normal.
Yeah, and it turned out he was the janitor.
Oh no, hang on. I'm getting confused with when they came back as the crowdfunder and they had the.
Oh
the,
no,
the
no,
per-
that was
yeah,
that was the receiver. That was Fergal.
that was it. He
that
seemed
was-
the most head screwed on person that they'd had in charge in years. I was like, oh,
Yeah, you could tell he wasn't from the world of motorsport, right?
Yeah.
You know, with his realistic targets and expectations.
yeah, disgusting.
I mean, and you know, I was watching a sort of a mini documentary about Eddie Jordan the other week.
Ooh.
And I was reading about how he got his team on the grid. And basically, he started racing, wasn't very good at it, became a manager, lied, cheated and stealed his way up to Formula 3000, decided that he wanted to enter Formula 1, put all his money into it, decided he wanted the car green, so had his marketing manager find a list of all the companies in the world that have green logos, and start trying to get them on board so he would have a coherent livery. And if companies weren't interested, he would put their name on the car anyway and put it outside their office. And he'd basically just bully them into sponsoring him, right? And this is a true story I'm going to tell you now. He wanted Johnny Herbert to be backed by the Camel cigarette company because the team needed the money.
Yes.
And Camel weren't interested. And this is when he was in Formula 3000. So he went down to a team that was sponsored by Camel, asked them for some decals, put them all over his car, despite having no agreement with Camels, and then raced. And in the end, Camels had to begin paying them. and that's the kind of people who get on the grid. And it makes me feel really... Oh no! It makes me feel really crappy. Because there are examples of teams that didn't deserve to go under, and immediately I'm thinking of LaRousse here.
Yes.
Because have you ever seen pictures of LaRousse's factory, by the way?
Yeah, it was
the new one they
gorgeous.
built.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was a beautiful building, and it was like technologically advanced, and I was like, that's a team that should have gone somewhere. And
Yeah.
the only reason they were dropped from the sport was the French government dicked them over.
Yeah. And Gerard Larousse couldn't quite fund it all himself at the time. That nearly pushed what was essentially what pushed Ligier into Prost, gave Prost unreal expectations, and that's why they all floundered as well. So the French government has both teams' blood on their hands, I think, personally.
Oh yeah, I mean the French government killed them both. It killed them both.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ligier, a little bit of a side fact.
Ooh.
I may very well be purchasing a Ligier. Legit, I'm very close to doing it.
Yeah.
I need a little city car for running around in. And Berlin's really hard to park in, and I don't need anything big or fast or anything. I just need something for zipping about. And yeah, they're insanely cheap, and for a micro car, look pretty good.
I didn't know they
Beetlejuice
did
is
that.
immediately raising the alarm. Don't. And taking a French car is generally a bad investment. I would agree, but these things cost about 10 grand. So I expect, you know, I'm not going to get much money back out of them. Oh yeah, there is a reason they're insanely cheap. It's because it's essentially a quadricycle. It's got a 2-cylinder engine and it's really slow. But again, just for there's little trips I take occasionally that are super inconvenient with public transport, and I don't want to pay to put a full car on the road, particularly because the economical ones tend to be diesel, and Germany's outlawing diesel cars, and the whole thing is like a minefield. But one of those little things, or a little electric car, that would do me perfectly fine. And I'll drive around safe in the knowledge everyone knows I must have a massive penis because I don't feel the need to compensate with a car. It's funny that, isn't it, right? Because when someone drives past with a big exhaust on like a Vauxhall Nova, or they drive by in a sports car or a big SUV, you immediately assume they're insecure in their masculinity. But people
Yes.
never make the transverse judgment. You're coming at it from the side. People never think, oh, I bet the guy in the microcar is a real shagger. that never comes up, does it?
No, that's
interesting.
True. I imagine you'd get some non-binary support on Twitter, though.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me and my little French eco car, we'd be very big in the
big in the binary,
big in the alphabet community. Yes, huge. Still though, I still feel before we have a Spanish team, we should have a French team, and I've always secretly hoped for a French team to re-enter the sport. And I'm not looking at you, Renault, because you're based in Enstone.
No, and I am mildly concerned about Renault and their future anyway, considering the amount of detachments that's happening from other teams. I wonder if Renault's time in F1, this stint of it at least, is coming to a bit of an abruptish end.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how many lives Team Enstone is going to have. There's got to be a point, right, where there's no one left to buy it when Renault gets bored.
They should just call it, like, Team Pussy or something, because it's had 9 lives already, surely.
Alienate Brits and Germans by driving a baguette. Way to antagonise people, Zero. Yeah. Flame on, Internet. Me and my tiny French car can take it. No, I might learn to play the accordion. Sorry, I've gone a bit mad there.
Garlic.
I kind of secretly hope that Dams would come into Formula One.
Yes!
Secretly, there's a little bit of me that thinks Dams is right. We have actually, I tell you what, that's a good segue as well. We have actually lost one of the more robust names in Formula 2. Arden have been replaced, haven't they?
They have. Which is a shame because they've been going for a while. They have been a bit of a shadow of their former selves for the last few years. Fuck it. Right. Hard tyres.
I know better than to ask what's going on. Yeah, R.I.P. Arden. That's a name that has been around long enough that I have some affection for it. That, it's on my radar when they disappear.
Have they been taken over, or is it just gone?
They've been taken over.
Okay, good. Because I was going to say, otherwise that is Tatiana Calderon out of a seat.
Yeah.
But clearly not. And it would have been Hubert, but obviously Hubert's replacement it would be now, whose name has just popped out of my head.
He's kind of irrelevant at this point, isn't he?
Yeah.
Anywho, R.I.P. Arden. Now I'll get back onto the F1 news now. So something we've been meaning to talk about. Mm-hmm. McLaren making the old switcheroo back to Mercedes power.
Yes.
I wish I could say I was surprised, but I wasn't, and it seems like a totally logical thing to do. It does put them back in the same position they were when they left Mercedes, which is you don't really win as a non-works outfit, and to be honest, given that they are best of the rest with Renault power, maybe this puts them in front of Red Bull, maybe in front of Ferrari if the engine's really that good, but Ferrari seem to have the better engine at the moment. But Ferrari's the one option that's never on the McLaren radar for obvious reasons.
No. I think so I'd probably be ill if that happened.
Yeah, it kind of it seemed like the obvious choice to me, but it is a sad case of affairs because what we really do need is that viable engine supplier to come in and make McLaren a works team again.
Yeah.
Because I somehow don't trust Mercedes to... I could see a Fernando Alonso happening and Mercedes going totally off the boil with their engines as soon as McLaren start using them. I honestly could, because I think it's already starting to wobble, right? They had big reliability problems with their last spec of engine, if you recall.
Yes.
and I'm kind of wondering if they've, F1 kind of runs in epochs and eras, right? And there's an ascendancy and then a period of dominance, and then you kind of plateau out. But there's also rumour that Mercedes works team will leave and McLaren will go back to being the works team, although Mercedes obviously flatly deny this.
Interesting. I feel a bit like, I mean, how long does a brand, quote unquote brand, what am I saying? Manufacturer, that's the word. Gain from winning constantly.
Well, that's a good point. I was about to bring that up myself, actually, because isn't this why, was it Porsche left Le Mans?
Yeah.
They retired because they just won.
If you've won everything and then there's considered no competition, it kind of ends up being like well, what do we have to win or lose, because we get no publicity from this anymore.
Precisely. So, I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't see it. I mean, they have to pull out eventually as well. They're a manufacturer. I mean, only Ferrari's the one that will stick around.
Yeah, that's true.
Beetlejuice says, in a way, McLaren going back to Merc makes the year since 13 a waste. In one sense, yeah, but I kind of disagree, because I think they've learnt to build a good car again. I think they've had to relearn how to build a good car, because every car they've had since 13, including 13 if I recall correctly, has been shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this year's the first one that I feel confident saying is a good car. The 14 car, aside from being ugly as all sin, the dildo nose and the washed out silver, was a heap of crap. The less we talk about the McLaren Honda years, the better, I feel.
Absolutely.
Last year's car, the wheels fell off in testing, literally. And I think it's been a recovery period internally. I think they had to learn some hard lessons that maybe Williams could have done with learning.
Mm-hmm.
Although, actually, I think Williams are probably acutely aware of the problems with their car more than the power unit, and they just really don't know what to do about it. My tyres are still kind of okay. I don't think I'll need to pit. All the more disappointing because we're 22 laps into a 33 lap race and I've only just caught Kevin Magnussen, so not a good race for your old pal Ben.
Good job, nice overtake.
But how do you see this playing out? Do you think we'll see McLaren challenging for the championship, or do you think they'll always be held back by the fact that the Works Mercedes team is there?
I can't think of the last time a non-Works team challenged for victory against a Works team. Because essentially...
Brawn. But Brawn actually was a Works team. It was the Works Honda team with
it was
Mercedes
just
power.
It was everything bar the name. And then I try and think of when was the last time I can remember a non-Works team outperforming a Works team. And funny enough, I guess that would be maybe Honda and Super Aguri in 2007. Red Bull and Toro Rosso,
Jordan.
the same stuff. Yes.
Actually, which Jordan years are you talking about? Because they were a Works team through their best years.
That's true.
With Peugeot and later with Mugen Honda and then Peugeot again, as I recall.
Yes.
Although, no, actually, they did win with Ford power, didn't they?
Oh yeah, 03.
With one of their really shit cars.
Yeah, Fisichella in 03, the weird Brazilian race.
Yeah.
You fundamentally, and we say it with Haas, if you aren't building everything and being designed for from scratch, you will inherently have a element of the unknown that you cannot know as intimately as the person who built it. Now, you might have some different design philosophies. That means that you aren't blinkered to something, so therefore you might be able to do something a bit better, maybe. But it's at a push as to whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, and I'd argue it's more likely to be a bad thing than a good thing. I just think that they would always be a step behind and have to be like the plucky underdog. I can only see them being a third best of the rest Red Bull era, whilst Mercedes are still about.
Me too, and I mean, there's been a lot of call for them to build their own engines, but Zach Brown and Andreas Seidel both said we are not and never have been an engine company. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, because, I mean, dare I lament them further, but that's what killed Arrows. Yeah,
too ambitious in that regard. I'm watching Russell overtaking Sainz for a podium slot. What the fuck is going on, AI?
Who even knows? Who even knows what's going on? No. Oh, I caught it. I keep riding the curves. I never learned my fucking lesson. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we need more engine suppliers. We're banging the same old drum again. We're always making this noise, and I'm never going to stop banging it, but we need more engine suppliers.
Who else would you like to see in that you think would benefit?
Ford. That's honestly the first name that leaps to mind, because they're not really involved in high-level motorsport in a fully committed capacity in, outside of America and Australia, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I know they have the Ford GT running in some global series, but Beetlejuice wants to see John Deere. Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see that. Bring out the green and yellow. Something I was thinking about, though, Lamborghini.
Ooh.
Problem is, of course, they are part of the Audi group. And Audi are F1 phobic.
Yeah.
To an alarming degree. And they're already in Formula E.
And they're established there.
Yeah, but I just think Lamborghini is a perfect fit for Formula One. I think, a stunning yellow and black car would be amazing. They could buy their engines from Ferrari and it wouldn't really be a loss of face. But I'd love to see him in as an engine supplier as well, because I think Audi is a company that has the resources to do it and do it well. To be honest with you as well, a large part of me was thinking Nissan, but then I realised Nissan and Renault are basically the same company now, and Renault are already in. I'm trying to think of companies that would benefit from hybrid technology rather than out-and-out electric.
Skoda?
Skoda are part of the VW group, so no. And plus, Porsche are also part of the VW group, and they are in... Oh no, they're part of Audi, aren't they? Or one or the other. But they're in Formula E now with a stunning looking car, by the way.
Is that the red, white, and black triangle livery? The Nismo. Yeah. It looks gorgeous. I love the straight lines. The straight lines and the gradients makes me excited.
I have to say, the liveries in Formula E this year have been exceptional. All of them.
Yes.
There's not an ugly car in that field, in my humble opinion. The Audi is the worst, just because they keep insisting on putting green in there.
There's what was I going to say? Have you taken much look at the testing times for Formula E, just whilst we're mentioning it?
I have, but I don't read too much into them.
No.
Because, BMW looked really strong last year as well in testing, and it didn't really pan out. I was a little concerned that Mercedes might turn up and spoil the party, but I'm no longer so concerned about that. I actually could see it. My hope is that we get another John-Eric Verne, Sam Bird showdown.
Ooh, yeah.
Because Virgin is my team, and Verne's the one to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Tachita and DS. It was impressive to me actually that Tachita were able to retain their dominance after changing engine supplier.
Yeah, as an independent as well.
Normally that's very, very disruptive, but they seem to have it down, so good on them.
Grand.
Yeah, in terms of engine suppliers for F1 though, we are really running out of options.
Oh, man has popped in the chat Hyundai. I don't really have any experience to know what they could or
they're
couldn't
producing all-electric vehicles, aren't they?
Oh,
Isn't
are
the
they?
Ioniq one of theirs?
I don't know.
I'm sure I've seen an electric Hyundai molesting my neighbourhood recently. Because this is where Formula 1's really in danger, right? This is why Formula E is getting the full grid.
Mm-hmm.
Because hybrid technology is already falling out of favour. As the range and reliability of electric cars is improving so rapidly, and people really want electric cars. I mean, I love electric cars. I really do. All the buses on my way to work have been replaced by electric buses, and they kick ass. They just produce this wave of torque out of nowhere. It's brilliant.
Wow.
So, yeah, you've got sort of an ever-diminishing pool of manufacturers for whom Formula 1 is going to make sense, unless it switches to all-electric, and it's not going to.
I wonder if it'll end up being... Because there's a point here where F1 becomes... and this goes back to this whole, are you going to try and push all your technology, or what technology is it that you're pushing to become world relevant? Should the power unit be part of that, and does that then become part of the sport? In the same way that, like, Williams supplies all different parts to Formula E as like standard.
Thanks for stopping him. Sorry to cut you off, Si. Beetlejuice says bye. He's heading out.
See you, BJ. Hot. I didn't mean to do that. I wonder
Can I
if...
pitch you an idea?
Yeah, go for it.
Right. The horse was replaced by the motor car, right?
Yes.
And then the horse became just for pleasure. And I'm kind of wondering if F1 maybe needs to go down that route. Maybe if it needs to go back to the old petrol head cliche. And, okay, we've got a control tyre. What about a control engine?
Mm-hmm.
Mechachrome V10s for everybody. Bring back the noise. And have the teams innovate in the chassis construction in some way, or through advanced materials research.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea, but I don't see the sport... If the sport changed formula and went back to V10 or V12s, which is what a lot of fans want, I can't actually see many manufacturers being attracted to that, because aside from Lamborghini, no one's putting V12s in anything.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's moving to electrification anyway. I kind of wonder if they need to go... I hate myself for saying this. If they need to somehow go down a semi-IndyCar route and just be... It's no longer the pinnacle of motorsport, but it is about racing. And it's just about racing and the prestige of racing. And I wonder if we could attract enough independent teams to fill up the shortfall.
Yeah.
I'm surprising myself saying this, honestly. I am. But I really can't see any other future for the sport at this point, actually, long term. Not to sound too pessimistic, but...
Not unless they change what it is they're trying to make world relevant and sell. Because
I mean, what do you think would happen if F1 suddenly announced we're going all electric?
it would
like,
be
genuinely, do we end up in a IndyCar, Champ Car kart scenario?
Yeah, we would. but it would have to go electric in a way that would be bigger and better because essentially then the whole mechanics of an F1 weekend and venue would change, as well as everything else, because the whole reason why Formula E looks fast and is able to do what it does is because it doesn't run on the circuits that it races and all of that kind of stuff. So it would have to go about it different and be like, we're bigger, we're fatter, we're better, we're this, we're that, because otherwise it just ends up being a Formula E wannabe.
Do you think actually it could eclipse Formula E if it made them move quite quickly before Formula E builds up any more steam and remained a construction formula?
It would have to offer something different. So
teams still build their own cars, and maybe we have battery packs that you swap out in pit stops.
I quite like the battery packs that you swap out in pit stops, because there's something about, at the moment, whatever we're doing with for that to work for me, Formula 1 becomes Formula 1 for electric, and Formula E changes the E from electric to efficiency. Because that's how that races, and that's how that all pulls together, and that kind of makes sense for me.
I was going to say, actually, the synergy of that dings my bell. That's going right up my flagpole.
Ooh.
Because what you would then have, let's actually scope this out now. Formula E would remain as it is, so you have to manage your power across the race. Drivers are there on merit rather than money because it's so much cheaper to enter, and they still have semi-standardised cars. I know they're opening it up more and more, but largely they are running the same car. There's just running gear and stuff, gearboxes, that they tamper with. Formula 1 would continue to be building your own car. They're just switching the powertrain for an all-electric one, and you have battery packs in the side pods that during a pit stop can be swapped out. That to me works anyway if we go back to, we're still on some form of high degradation tyre, I suppose, but combine that with high deg tyres, so you have to stop for the tyres anyway, and then you can make tyres that are exceptionally soft and fast, along with electric powertrain, which makes for very interesting racing actually, and can put down a hell of a lot of torque. Remove, no driver aids still. I think actually that could work. And a lot of the people who are in Formula E could also begin supplying powertrains to Formula 1. It makes that more cost effective for them. The battery technology isn't new or innovative. Like, all the innovation on the battery side would be coming from Formula E. It's very easy to make an exchangeable battery pack because, car manufacturers are talking about doing it. Kimi Raikkonen has won the race in an Alfa Romeo.
Russell's third. And I'm fourth.
Where are you?
Fourth. I got twatted off by Verstappen and he's second. So then I made some angry moves at the end. Left... Oh, yeah, I've already said that.
I'm 18th. I just could not recover.
Difficult. Weird race.
You and I were exchanging fastest laps at one point, but it just wasn't enough. I'm about 5 seconds behind Norris, maybe a bit more.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to my form this year, but it ain't good.
Oh. I don't know, man, if you're still in the chat. I thought Arden were continuing other junior formulas. I don't know, but I'm assuming that the name is. It's just not F2. I shall have a look for you. Well, this podium would be a delight in real life.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm going to stay and watch the podium.
So...
Oh, hell yes.
Good recovery, Tristeful. Thank you very much, man. I was a bit cheeky with my last couple of dive bomb overtakes, but I'd pissed off with the AI for twatting me off down at turn 1. I don't think I've seen Russell on the podium yet on this game.
I've seen some wacky podiums in my career mode, to be honest.
It's Williams and Force India that are... Sorry, Racing Point, that are my top teams in my career mode as I was playing.
Racing Point seemed to go only forwards in everybody's game. I've noticed that pattern. Everybody, every playthrough I watch, like everyone I speak to in their career mode, by season 3, like Force India, Racing Point, Beard, Badger Stroll, they're like up there. What I've noticed is Toro Rosso always end up at the back as well.
Yeah, mine are as well. They're no good. It's almost as if they've decided they've given like the AI improvement rates behind the scenes, and it's kind of doing like a random number generator out of that to see who leaps forward and who doesn't. Renault are my back team by like a second off of everyone else.
I moved to Ferrari this season, as they go down to being the second worst team. And Alfa Romeo, who was the team I started with and built up, they've stayed at the front since I put them there.
Oh.
But now, like, I can't seem to get away from Kimi Räikkönen as well. He's stalking me. Every time I make a move, he ends up being my teammate at some point. It just keeps pairing me with Räikkönen. I don't know why. Because at McLaren, me and Norris were killing it. And then they dropped him out of the blue. For no conceivable reason. Like, there's no logic to why drivers get dropped. No. And when I moved to Ferrari, Daniel Ricciardo had been there. And was doing quite well. So I thought, me and Ricciardo, that'd be a good lineup. So I moved there, taking the seat that wasn't Ricciardo. But they fire both their drivers. And I end up paired with Räikkönen again.
God.
Ridiculous.
It's desperate to give you some Kimi action.
Anyway, me old China, very well done on your 4th place.
Thank
Good
you.
recovery. And a solid return episode after our little hiatus.
Absolute.
We will see everybody, I suppose, in about 2.5 weeks, because I'm going to be in Iceland.
Yes. Everyone have a great Mexican Grand Prix, which is going to be streamed on Twitch for the very first time. Yeah, sorry, that's I forgot to say. So they're not for Britain, but use VPNs. Twitch won't know. They're going to live broadcast the Mexican Grand Prix on Twitch, and I'm assuming this is a test of the waters to see how they can appeal to a younger audience, but also get away from a pay-per-view brick. So how can they do other options of stuff? I don't know. Be interesting to see how it goes.
What the fuck am I paying F1 TV Pro for then?
Precisely. So I think
I asked that anyway because it doesn't work very well, but still.
I wonder if they're looking at Twitch to provide their F1 TV Pro in the future. If they clearly don't have the infrastructure to make it work properly for you, maybe this is a tester. Who knows?
But I don't think Twitch do either, to be honest.
No.
No one on Twitch gets the viewing figures globally that F1 does. Nobody.
No. I look forward to watching Twitch tank and to see exactly how many Europeans can use a VPN.
Well, cheerio everybody. Thank you for stopping by and watching. We will see you in 2.5 weeks.
Yes.
And hopefully at Monaco I won't be this shit, but we know I will.
Take care.
Bye.
That constructor's